Howdy, y'all, and step right up to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove, and I'm joined by a man who doesn't like it when I do an introduction for his country. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
What are we, all Texans to you? Is that what we are?
In the popular imagination, kind of, yes. Like how all Brits are from East London, apparently.
I mean, they are. That's how it works.
Or we're lords of the manor.
Just expository Brits for purposes of furthering the plot in, historical movies. It's always somebody from East London telling the tale.
The best expository British character is Basil Exposition.
This is true. This is very true.
We are here to preview Group F, the finale of our World Cup 2019 group previews. In Group F, you will find the United States of America. I'm guessing we're going to go long on that one, because I'm guessing we both have things to say.
It's a safe bet.
Thailand, Chile,
yep,
and Sweden. And our Scandinavian nemesis.
Yes.
Kind of, right?
You are correct.
Yes. You ready to jump right in?
I'm ready to jump
right
in.
Up to the USA.
Is that the first time you've said y'all, or have you started to say that more often?
No, I don't really say it. Yeah,
it's the best word there is.
It kind of is. It's actually two words, right?
Yep. Contraction means one.
Is there an apostrophe in y'all?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Y''ALL. You've seen my texts. I put it in there.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Okay. I like it.
I'm all about punctuation in texts.
You ready to talk USA?
I suppose.
Okay. Quick background on USA for those who don't know. 2015 was glorious.
No.
Women's World Cup winners. Carly Lloyd hat-trick. 2016 was not so glorious.
No.
Went to the Olympics. Just couldn't break down Sweden and eventually lost to them. I would argue that since then, Jill Ellis stayed in charge, the World Cup winner, and the Olympic not winner, I guess. Jill Ellis stayed in charge.
I don't think she'll love that, but sure.
And built this team.
Yeah.
I think the idea is to change this team up and build it so that never again are we stymied by a defensive team.
Okay. Do you think she's done that?
We'll find out very soon.
All right.
But things have been changed up, I would say. And that's why the nickname for the USA is, weirdly, the USWNT, right?
Yeah.
That tends to be what everyone calls them, the US Women's National Team, USWNT. The nickname should be the Gamblers.
All right.
Because to me, this is an attacking team.
You're really doubling down on the southernness, and I like
it. Yeah, the Riverboat Gamblers. This is an attacking team that takes risks, and it's also a roster that took a lot of risks by being stacked with attacking talent at the expense of defensive talent.
Still not sure how I feel about that, although I feel like what I feel is concerned.
But you agree with me so far?
Yes.
Right? Okay. The playing style for the US Women's National Team, it's going to be a 4-3-3, right? We know it. I would say at this point, you and I, everybody fit, could name the starting 11.
Yes.
Yeah? I'm going to do it, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
It's going to be Alyssa Nye in goal. It'll be Kelly O'Hara at right back. It'll be Becky Sauerbrunn and Abby Delcamper as the two centre-backs.
Casey Short at left back.
It'll be Crystal Dunn at left back. Casey Short is not on the roster. It's Rose Lavelle, Julie Ertz, Lindsay Horan in central midfield, assuming everybody's fit. Tobin Heath on the right, Megan Rapinoe on the left, Alex Morgan centre forward. That seems to be Jill Ellis's preferred 11. Right?
I would agree.
Okay, here's what she does with that 11. I would argue that the US has different ways of pressing.
I agree.
They are a pressing team, right? They'll quite often go after you. I think sometimes Morgan weirdly drops deep and Rapinoe and Heath go and press. It's quite kind of an odd system. Sometimes Rapinoe and Heath come really deep, and then these sort of the non-Julie Ertz central midfielders, Lavelle and Horan, will poke beyond the wingers and they'll go and press. It's a really weird system.
I've got another one for you.
Sometimes Julie Ertz will just charge out of there and go for a one-woman press.
So here's the thing.
Yeah.
I've noticed that before, and I've gone back and watched, and what I've noticed is that it's not necessarily a press. I think if the press has been bypassed, if they want to kind of sit back a little bit, sit off a little bit, what I've noticed they'll do is they'll basically go into more of a 4-3-2-1 shape, but it's almost like a 4-2, or it's like that midfield 5 is like a 2-1-2, where you basically got a square around Julie Ertz, and she's allowed to kind of roam around and put out fires and try to make interceptions, but you've got those kind of 4 players around her to either pick up the ball once it spills loose, or to sort of make covering runs or to cover opposition players, so that then Julie Ertz isn't necessarily exposed when she does the roaming.
I've seen this too. I'm embarrassed that it wasn't in my preview notes.
That's okay.
Yeah, there was a box around Julie Ertz, and then she's allowed to go win the ball, right? And it works because she's brilliant. She's one of my key players. I think we'll get into some details.
That's fair.
On Julie Ertz.
Do you mind if I jump in one more time to talk about Julie Ertz
away.
some more?
I feel like you know as much about the US Women's National Team as me, right? So this can be like a two-handed preview.
These are kind of my two nuances. So one I've already mentioned, like one little moment. The other thing, watching the New Zealand game again in preparation to talk about New Zealand on the last preview, is that when they're playing against a very defensive opponent, It stood out to me because I watched the vacuum agrees that it's against bunkered opponents. It can be frustrating. But I noticed that like Becky Sauerbrunn would start dribbling forward and then would almost like as though she'd run into a wall, stop and square it to Julie Ertz.
Yeah.
And Abby Dahlkemper would do the same. And I think that against a bunkered opponent, they almost move into like a 2-3-2-3. And Julie Ertz is the one who will always pull the ball forward, and those two center backs always stay home. So it's sort of like we commit numbers forward, we keep two center backs central, and we're just really going to go at you and put numbers in there.
Okay, well then let's get into the details of Julie Ertz then,
Sure.
since you've already kind of taken us there. And I'm cool with it, right? But yeah, one of the things I had in my notes is that she is like, you think of her as purely a destroyer, right? She's a former centre-back. She was a centre-back in 2015 when we won the World Cup, who stepped into defensive midfield. And you do see a lot of her winning the ball. You see a lot of slide tackles, right? You actually see a lot of things where, you know, the US is in trouble when she misses a tackle and then suddenly everything's wide open. Like
Yes.
a lot, the reason she's a key player is because I feel like a lot depends on her stopping a counter-attack after we've committed a lot of numbers forward. But a thing you just touched on as well is that she's actually really good with the ball.
Yes.
Right? I've seen her do a couple of shimmies and hit a through ball. Like, it's not that she's just a destroyer and then she has to give it to someone more creative. She can if she gives it to Rose Lavelle or Tobin Heath. But she can be part of the US sort of possession, like keep the ball moving quickly. And she can be hitting killer passes herself as well.
Yes.
That's why she's a key player and super important.
Yes, and then on top of that, I think she's got the kind of the veteran leadership, but also it seems like a lot of positive energy. Like if you watch,
Yes,
you
she's
know
a warrior.
But you know that I like celebrations,
Yeah.
and I enjoy that she celebrates every single goal as though it's like the first goal that's ever been scored. Like she literally like
In the
jumps
history of
for
soccer.
she like jumps for joy with every single goal. She loves when her team scores, and like that energy is always a good thing to have.
All right, there's one key player discussed. I think we should talk more about the US. The US's attacking style. One thing is that press that we talked about, when they win it back, they're deadly.
Yes.
They really are. When they're in behind you, if they manage to win the ball in the press, you're really, really in trouble because all those attacking weapons, you're disorganised, they have the ball, things are bad. I actually think it's what the US is best at. That's their best sort of plan to score a goal is to pressure high, win the ball back, go at you, right?
Yes, and can I jump in to say that I think part of the going at you is playing in the channels, basically? That
Yes.
it's like the distribution of Megan Rapinoe and Tobin Heath factors considerably there.
Absolutely. Okay, but when the US is facing an opponent that like hasn't made a mistake, hasn't given the ball away, the US has the ball, that opponent is sitting back, that's when it gets interesting, right? Because that's the Sweden problem that we're trying to solve. And I would argue what the US do is they try to move the ball pretty quickly through midfield. And to me, they seem to end up going to the wings a lot.
Right.
Going to Megan Rapinoe, who is definitely not the fastest, but I would argue has maybe the best touch on this team, the best technique, and is really good at sort of making just a couple of little moves and like whipping in a cross or a through ball type pass, like weird angle pass type thing that no one saw coming, or even shooting from distance.
I can accentuate that by saying the goal she did score, the opening goal against New Zealand when they were very bunkered. Rapinoe gets it out wide and does that sort of driven but slightly bending ball that like isn't the goalkeeper's never going to be able to get to, but I think bypasses 4 different players and then finds Tobin Heath for like an easy tap in.
And I'd also argue it's kind of a weakness on this team that the crossing is not great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've seen Kelly O'Hara get forward and put in crosses where it doesn't beat the first defender. Tobin Heath's like just whipping in crosses is not as good. She's better sort of dribbling, getting to the end line. Megan Rapinoe is the one player that I 100% trust her to bend a ball in and it will find the target. So that's one way that the US can attack.
Okay.
The other way is to go down the right flank with Tobin Heath, right? Tobin Heath is another one. She's my other key player.
Okay.
So I would argue everybody kind of knows Tobin Heath, right? Like loads of tricks, loads of step overs. Tobinha, they called her because she's almost like a Brazilian style player. I think in the last year or two, Tobin Heath has added a bit of muscle, a bit of acceleration to her game. I think she's the most dangerous she's ever been. I think this could be Tobin Heath's tournament. This could be the one where, not that she's been bad in the past, she was very much a part of the 2015 World Cup winning roster, right? But I think this could be the one where she's one of the stars of the tournament.
So why do you think that?
Because of that extra acceleration. So before it was like step over, shimmy, this, that, go past someone, but then the other player can just recover and she has to beat them again. This time I feel like she's more decisive and deadly because she has that extra bit of acceleration. She goes past someone and actually leaves them behind.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes me feel a little bit better, but I've had my moments of frustration with Tobin Heath.
I know, yeah.
Including lately, because I think sometimes she tries to do too much of that.
Yes.
But do you feel like maybe that's...
I agree with that.
Okay.
But it's sometimes it comes off and it's glorious. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but then the question becomes, it feels like your 2 points of attack are still out wide.
Yeah.
And the way that Sweden were able to basically nullify the United States States in the Olympics was by kind of blocking the channels and forcing them to come central and play that way.
No, it was to force us wide, right? Didn't we end up sending a bunch of useless crosses against Sweden in 2016?
I think it was more so to like nullify the effectiveness of Rapinoe and Heath like on the ball, so that yes, then it became a bunch of crosses. But it was sort of like not letting the United States do what they wanted to do in those kind of attacking positions, and that's my concern: is how do they kind of evolve from there? What have they done to kind of fix that?
Help us, Rose Lavelle. You're our only hope. With a little bit of Lindsay Horan as well. Yeah. But yeah, Rose Lavelle, who'll be like the right centre midfielder. She's the most creative player in many ways. Definitely in central midfield, she's the most creative player. She's the player who can sort of pull out a trick, pull out a move that you didn't see coming, and open you up. Lindsay Horan also, more sort of box to box, more sort of like dangerous both ways, but very, very capable of contributing to the attack. And you'll often see her sort of bursting between the lines, and she'll be the one on the end of a through ball as well.
But I would agree with you. I think Rose Lavelle is the one who I've seen like written of as like the true number 10 for the United States if that like role is needed. I think you're absolutely right that she can pull off some tricks of her own, certainly, but the way she can keep the ball moving and sort of doesn't get pulled into those moments of like step over, I'm going to shoot from distance, but seems to always be looking, right? And always seems to be looking for like the kind of killer through ball or the incisive pass more so than the individual moment of brilliance.
And the player we haven't talked about yet is the centre forward, Alex Morgan. So Alex Morgan, in the past, she was definitely a sort of pacey, running behind, then, in my opinion, just hit it as hard as you can with your left foot striker. I don't love her finishing. I know she's very highly rated, but I feel like there's a lot of hit it as hard as you can, and we're not quite sure where it's going to go sometimes.
Agreed.
You agree with that?
Yeah, I do. I think especially when she's in on goal in 1v1 situations, certainly she can score goals, not saying she can't, but I do think you're right that she sort of relies a little bit on the breakawayness of the sequence as opposed to the what's the goalkeeper doing? Okay, now I'm going to wait for her to make a decision. Once she commits, I'm going to like pass it around her, pass it underneath her. I don't quite see that as much as I'm going to get in on goal and then I'm going to hit it hard.
Yep. But the thing that I do like about Alex Morgan's game is I heard her talk about after 2016, not as a reaction to the Olympics, more as a sort of career progression type thing. She talked about wanting to be a more complete striker, someone who can do the hold-up play, this and that. She stated that as one of the reasons where she went to play for Lyon briefly, right? I would argue she has added that to her game, and that it's to the US's benefit, that rather than just hanging on the last defender and hoping that, like, what they call a tiny horse, can just use her pace to run in behind, she will come deep, receive the ball, lay it off. And I think that works in terms of like giving it to like connecting with midfielders, connecting with Rapinoe and Heath, even winning headers. I think she's much, much better at sort of, if the US gets in trouble, they can like lift it forward and Morgan can have a flick on, and then that can be Heath or Rapinoe in behind. So I think she's become a lot more useful as a connective player, as well as doing the left-footed smash that does, even though it's sometimes wild and like frustrating, it does result in a lot of goals.
Yeah. I mean, I think like she'll have to drop in, I would say, because I think against especially some of the opposition in this group, they're going to be bunkered and very defensive. So the number of times we've seen her kind of hang on the last defender with a hand in the air, wanting the ball over the top or wanting that long ball in, don't necessarily think that's going to work as well.
Yeah,
so I feel like
there won't be much space to run in behind too, right? She'll probably be on the edge of the 18 already.
Yes, but I think also will probably be well marked because she is that like kind of main threat if you're going to be crossing a ball in, like looking for a header. So I hope she is then more capable and adept at dropping in and kind of like creating overloads that way.
Then the other thing about the way the US attacks is the fullbacks. So Crystal Dunn, one of the reasons that she is playing left back when she's not really a left back is so she can get forward from left back, get involved in the attack, because she's a very creative player, right? Kelly O'Hara the same. She's an attacking right back, right? Even though I don't love her crossing, she does get forward and get involved in attacks. So you really can see, like, sometimes Rapinoe and Heath will pinch in and be closer to Morgan, and O'Hara or Dunn will be the widest players way up the field. And then, if the opposition breaks, that's when you need a Julie Ertz slide tackle to prevent the gigantic counter-attack.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
So there you go. That's my sort of blueprint of how the US women's national team plays. I did mention the concerns about the roster.
Right.
So there is... we've talked about this before. I think we should talk about it again just in case no one's heard it before. It's pretty thin on defenders. We are pretty thin on defenders. So Kelly O'Hara's our right back. Ali Krieger's our back at right back. Crystal Dunn is our left back who's not really a left back. And as you said, you joked earlier, there's no Casey Short. There kind of is no backup left back. I think it's like Kelly O'Hara would have to switch sides and Ali Krieger comes in, or Tiana Davidson, who's a left-footed centre back, but not a starting centre back, I think might just be asked to play left back, and suddenly it doesn't quite work.
No, I mean I think the idea is that like in a very bad situation, if Crystal Dunn is injured, then Kelly O'Hara goes over to the left back spot, and then if say like Krieger were hurt, then you have Emily Sonnet there, or vice versa, depending on what you need.
Who again is really a centre back.
Yeah, but
we could get very thin very fast.
Exactly. There's that, and then there's Julie Ertz, as you've already mentioned.
And the other problem with Julie Ertz is she's so sort of key player, as we mentioned, for all the reasons we talked about. If she gets injured, there is no obvious replacement defensive midfielder. I don't know who it is. It would be maybe asking Lindsay Horan or Sam Mewis to do it, or I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's the issue, and I'm not sure Jill Ellis necessarily knows that either. It's why we've seen her in the most recent friendlies play even when she was bleeding from the head on 2 different occasions.
Yes.
I think because there aren't that many options if she's not there. I'm inclined to agree with you that it would probably, in my mind, be one of Lindsay Horan or Sam Mewis. I also say that because Lindsay Horan, I've seen her now wreck 3 different players playing for the U.S., so I feel like she has the defensive destroyer capability, certainly.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And going forward, I didn't mention this, but it's Rapinoe, Morgan, Heath, guaranteed starters. The reason there are so few defenders and defensive midfielders is there's just like a galaxy of stars ready to come in and replace them.
This is true.
Kristen Press arguably deserves to start for all the impact she's had off the bench, but the plan seems to be she has such impact off the bench. Let's keep her there. We'll bring her in as probably a winger. Mal Pugh the same. I mean, Mal Pugh was this like big star already in 2016, right? And I think wasn't quite ready to dominate international soccer. She's still not ready to dominate international soccer, but she's ready again to come off the bench and be really, really dangerous. Honestly, if Tobin Heath is having no luck down the right, I think the move is, all right, Tobinia, you're brilliant, but let's give Pugh or Press a try up against that fullback. That could work, right?
Yes.
You've also got Jess McDonald, who can replace Alex Morgan. And you've got kind of the wild card for these gamblers, Carly Lloyd.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're doing a lot of agreeing with me, but I feel like we're on the same page with a lot of US women's national team stuff.
You're listing players, so yes, I agree. I agree with the players that you have said are in the roster. I have a feeling that Carly Lloyd will be more important to this team than I would have thought, at least heading into this tournament, because I still have those concerns about Alex Morgan, and I think that Carly Lloyd is just such a ruthless finisher that if there is a situation when the United States are playing against a team that is very frustratingly defensive and they can't find their way through, Carly Lloyd, like not in the Tobin Heath way, but just in a I'm going to score a goal no matter what way, finds a way through.
I think that's absolutely it. I think in a lot of ways she represents the competitiveness and ruthlessness of this team, which I actually think is maybe their biggest attribute. I think other teams we've looked at, like France or Germany, are maybe technically better soccer players. You know what I'm saying? I've seen smoother moves from a lot of the European nations. But do you remember the famous, I can't remember which game it was, McCall Zaboni, in the end, didn't even make the roster. She would have been a good Julie Ertz replacement.
Yes.
Do you remember when the audio was picked up of her saying, what are we? And she used a swear word where effing winners. And I really think that is the attitude that permeates this entire team. And it's the thing that will either see them through the entire thing, or maybe sort of the sort of prideful we're the best thing that like maybe comes back to bite them. But I think Carly Lloyd, even though her powers are waning a little bit, represents that sort of we're the best like ruthlessness that this team has had for a few years.
I mean, they've made much of the fact that she doesn't want to be on the bench, that she has not made a secret of not wanting to be on the bench, that she will accept it.
She just sits there fidgeting, waiting to come on.
But I think kind of, and I think that if she does come on, you're going to see her go even more so than she already does towards trying to get those goals.
Oh, okay. So I've talked a lot. Is there anything else, like any big thoughts that you have about this US women's national team that maybe you want us to talk about or you want to share?
No, I mean, I have the same concerns about depth and the same concerns about the variety of attack because, like, for example, you said, like, if it's not working for Tobin Heath, Mallory Pugh comes in. And, like, Mallory Pugh is very fast, very good on the ball, very technically, like, she's good technically.
Good finisher as well.
Yeah, but, like, it's not that like massive change-up, I guess, in my opinion, from Tobin Heath. Certainly Tobin Heath has more like foot skills, but I still have concerns about the variability of the United States attack. It's incredibly strong, and it's so strong that like if you give them an inch, they're going to score. If you give them even a half-second glance at goal, I feel like the U.S. has the ability to take advantage of that and find the back of the net. But it's when they're really frustrated and they get kind of pulled into those games that are very physical and the pace is slowed down, how they respond to that. I will be looking to see what they do to kind of change it up and vary it up in the second half. Do
you feel like me, like hyper confident that the first opponents, I can't remember the order, but Thailand and Chile?
Yeah.
Is it that order?
I believe so.
they're kind of going to roll through that.
Yes,
yeah?
I do.
And then Sweden, the weird thing is, if the group's already kind of decided at that point and it doesn't matter, that game's going to be kind of dead.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I do. It's a confusing thing, though, because if France wins their group, as we expect them to, and say the United States does, I believe they would meet in the quarterfinals, which is not ideal. So, like, there's also maybe that of like, maybe finishing second to Sweden isn't the worst.
Second. Yeah. So that game could get weird, right? Because in one way, it's everything we've talked about this is the team that stymied us in 2016. This is what we've been trying to adapt so that we can beat. But we might get to a situation where we actually don't really need to beat them when we play them. So that'll be sort of frustrating. Yeah.
And then I think, so, like, that could be not the most fun game. And then the other thing I would just say is because we are playing, like, two pretty weak teams, I would say. I don't think that's me, like, homerism or bias or anything.
The US got a very, very easy draw.
But I would caution people against, like, if they go up against Thailand and they haven't scored in 25 minutes or 30 minutes. Like, I think in 2015, there was a kind of negativity around the national team that persisted until maybe the knockout round where I was like, but it's not pretty soccer. They haven't scored enough goals. They haven't done enough of that. And that is the kind of curse of the U.S. women's national team, that they're so good that there is this weird, like, they haven't scored in the first 5 minutes. Something's horribly wrong.
Yeah.
So, sort of like approach from some of the fandom. And so I would just caution people to just be like, lower the expectations. A 1-0 win against Thailand would not be the most exciting thing, but it's still 3 points.
I'd predict more, though.
I predict more as well.
Final thing on the US, weirdly, we always talk about the domestic league.
Yep.
So I'm looking at the NWSL with sort of fresh eyes, or at least with eyes that can now compare it to the French league and the German league and the women's Super League in England. And it suddenly doesn't feel quite as impressive as it did before.
Really?
So I really look at, like, that Lyon team we keep talking about. I honestly think any NWSL team you put Lyon up against, they would run out handy winners.
I mean, that's also the Lyon team that have won their league for over a decade and have won the last 4 Champions Leagues. So you're
so maybe it's unfair to compare them to anyone.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit like saying, like, I don't know how good the Premier League is anymore because Barcelona in, like, 2008 or 2009 is, like, one of the best teams ever. Like, it sort of is like, if you put them in the Premier League, they probably win every single game, or they win a lot of their games. But I don't know if that diminishes the Premier League necessarily. I think you're talking about a team that has, I mean, as we've said before, like, any player for any of the national teams that is on Lyon, we're instantly like, okay, so that's their key player. She's very good because you have to be to play at that level.
Okay, I guess another way of looking at it then is I look at the European leagues and I see the connection between the women's teams and the men's teams, and there's just a bigger pot of money available because there's all the money coming in from the men's teams, right? We say Lyon or Arsenal ladies or something like that. And NWSL teams don't quite have that same,
I see what you mean.
You know what I mean? Like, big bank that they can pull from.
Yeah.
So NWSL, 9 teams. We hope it expands. We know there's that Barcelona thing where they're trying to get a Barcelona team in the NWSL. There it is.
There it is. Is it telling that we have not mentioned the goalkeeper yet?
Yeah, I guess. So Alyssa Naya will be the starting keeper. She has been for a long old time. I don't know. I don't really have strong opinions about her. I think she's not quite Hope Solo, in good ways and bad.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do know exactly what you mean.
Much more steady presence, not making any headlines, but not really making any major mistakes either. So it's kind of like a steady presence in goal.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think
that may reflect my lack of analysis of our goalkeeper, but I just don't have a lot to say about it.
No, I mean, I feel like the concern, such as it is that I've heard, is just that, like, she's basically been the starting goalkeeper for a while now, to the extent that there haven't been, like, Ashlyn Harris gets a few minutes here and there, Adriana French gets a few minutes here and there, but for the most part, it's Alyssa and I are starting every single game.
Yep.
So the concern is, what if something happens? What if she does have a string of bad performances, and then you're bringing in goalkeepers who maybe don't have as much experience?
Yeah, I think it would take an injury to switch her up.
But again, these
that's
are, like,
also possible, right?
These are very far down the ladder concerns, as opposed to some teams being like, so they don't really have a goalkeeper, and they're trying to figure that out. Don't really have those problems.
One kind of sweet bit of trivia is we listed the starting 11. On the bench, there'll be Ashlyn Harris and Ali Krieger.
Oh, yeah?
Married, and they'll be able to just sit on the bench together and watch the game unfold.
There you go.
It's kind of...
That's the dream.
As far as I know, they're the only married couple on a roster together in this World Cup, but I haven't researched all the other rosters.
I can't remember. Australia has... I forget her first name. It was changed to something else. I cannot remember.
We talked about it.
I apologize. She's married, but I don't know if her partner is in that squad as well.
Okay. All right. I'm sure someone will correct us.
Yes. I cannot remember it. It's going to annoy me for a while.
Still to come.
I just remember because she took her partner's name, and so suddenly I was like,
it was
why?
Great. I remember talking about it.
Yes, but I was like, but also like, why did Butt get dropped? Like, she played in so many games. Why is she no longer there? It's because she has a different name.
All right, still to come. Thailand, Chile, Sweden, the nemesis team, Sweden. But first, today's show is sponsored by Talisman Caps. I just put on an imaginary hat.
You did.
To mime the ad.
They offer high-end, quality-made caps and gear to help you support and celebrate your club. To some extent, you could do that with your national team because they've got the USA 99 hat that's got Brandi Chastain on it. They've got the Be a Legend hat with Mia Hamm on it. If you're maybe not going to support the U.S. women's national team, first of all, how dare you? But second of all, maybe you're going to root for France. Maybe you're going to jump on that bandwagon. They've got the FFF hat for the French Football Federation.
Is that that's nice?
It's a nice-looking hat, I'm not going to lie. It matches. I think when we talked about France, we didn't mention how nice their white and kind of like polka dot jerseys are.
Yes.
I feel like the hat reflects the stylistic nature of the French national team.
Lovely. Also, if you're more into, say, Champions League football, they did just, I think, re-release their Liverbird 5-panel hat. It says the Liverbird on it. It's red. It's a 5-panel hat is a certain kind of hat, right? I think the Cooligans hat is also a 5-panel hat, as I've come to understand it. Talisman Caps has taught me a lot about caps.
Have they? That's good. I'm glad.
Before I thought they all came like baseball cap shaped.
What would you say Talisman Caps are?
Well, they're like the different like.
Oh, you would have just said like there was just one generic baseball.
Yeah,
cap. I thought you were implying that like Talisman are like not baseball caps, and I was slightly concerned.
Because you know what I'm saying, like the classic baseball cap. I thought that was the only style.
I got you now.
I was wrong.
They've also got the Vintage Vault, which is curated jerseys that they find especially fly, and there are some pretty solid ones in there. There's a lot of like early MLS ones. Last I checked.
Yeah.
Were I a one with bolder fashion tastes, I might acquire a couple of those.
And worth mentioning, this is an independent American company based in St. Paul, Minnesota.
You always hesitate for a minute there.
Do you know what it is? I always can't remember if it's Minneapolis or Minnesota is the state or the city.
Gotcha.
Right? And then I have to remember, they're not actually in Minneapolis, they're in St. Paul, but they're twin cities, right? So it's kind of the same thing.
You did it.
I'm going to assume there's a river in between.
That seems like a safe bet,
right?
And I'm going to assume it's frozen at least part of the year. The other thing you should know about Talisman Caps is that you can get 20% off.
Yes.
With minimum purchase of $35, which is the cost of one cap. But if you want to buy like 7, then you could still get 20% off because it works that way. And you can do so by using the promo code TOTALSOCCER20 at checkout.
TOTALSOCCER20 at talismancaps.com. The link and that code will both be in the show notes.
All right. So we've done the USA. Shall we do some Thailand?
Yeah. So I'll be honest. I know absolutely zero about this Thailand team. So I'm prepared to be educated.
So did I until this morning. Hopefully I know more than zero. Their nickname is Chabacao. Which I believe translates to the pink elephants. I might be wrong on that one because there was no translation offered. Most of the English language sources I saw just said Chabacao. No, so like I looked it up and I think it relates to like a story that involves elephants. And I think this particular one is pink. I'm not really sure.
Okay.
But I'm going to call them the sophomore season. That is their nickname for me.
Why so?
Because historically the sophomore season is it's difficult to replicate the breakout rookie year. I think it might be difficult for Thailand to replicate their 2015 Women's World Cup performance.
What happened in 2015?
In 2015, they beat the Ivory Coast, their first ever win. Only, I think, 4 teams out of Asia, the Asian Federation, have ever won multiple games at a Women's World Cup, so Thailand would like to be one of those teams to maybe win one this time around. It's just that it's really the same team from 2015 with a few changes, but not necessarily stronger as a result of that.
Okay.
So it is going to be the last go-round for a lot of the 2015 veterans. 15 of the 23 players on the roster were in the last World Cup. 9 of those players are going to be starters. So basically 9 of the 11 are the exact same team from 2015.
Got it.
More or less, yes.
So what can you tell me about, have you been able to glean much about sort of how they play?
Yes. So it's tough because...
First of all, well done.
Thank you. It's tough because there is not necessarily a lot of like lineups and data because they've played in a variety of competitions that like are more so, I think, just trying to get experience. So you're not seeing a lot of statistical reporting and lineup reporting and all that. But what I can tell you is that they're basically trying to prepare for this tournament by playing better opposition than they might face in their confederation, in their qualifying tournaments. So that's good in that it gives them more experience. It's bad in terms of the results are kind of rough. Since they beat Australia in July of 2018, they've lost 11 of their last 12. That includes 5-0 to China, 4-1 to Portugal, and Italy, 3-0 to France and Nigeria. Most recently, on June 1st, they lost 6-1 to Belgium.
So those numbers are too big.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some of them are very big, but I think you could explain it partially by the fact that they are experimenting a little bit. In 2015, they went very defensive because they were playing stronger opposition. That was the easiest way to deal with that. So I think in some of these games, they've tried to open it up, tried a few different things. It has not worked. They've been beaten. So I do think that they're probably going to be a bit more defensive. The one outlier for that, I think, will be probably a 4-3-3 against Chile, because that will be their final group stage game, and I think there they'll know maybe 3 points if they can keep the goal difference close against the United States and Sweden. Maybe 3 points sends them through.
I didn't realize that the other side of the coin of USA Sweden being the final game is that Thailand Chile is the final game.
Yes.
So they're going to both hope that they can get a point somewhere against USA and Sweden, and then hope to beat the other one.
Honestly,
that's the only way through, right?
I mean, I'm sure they're hoping for a point. I'm sure they would take 3 points. I really do think that it's probably, if you're being practical, it's more of a let's keep it really close against
Don't
the United
lose by
States.
too many.
Yes, against the United States and Sweden. So our goal difference is such that if we get a win, maybe that 3 points is enough to take us to the next round, because some third-place teams go through.
Ooh, but it's a big ask, right? But I guess if that's your only chance, you might as well try and take it. So that means that final game, Thailand-Chile, could be absolutely thrilling.
It could be.
If they both have 0 points and they both know it's got to be 3 points to go through, maybe they just go at it against each other.
Yeah, and I think that's what I think they'll probably try to do, is to be a bit more attacking with that 4-3-3 against the United States and Sweden. Probably more of a bunkered 4-5-1. Even then, as I said, I think some teams have kind of figured out how to beat a bunkered team, especially if that team doesn't necessarily play at a high level, because Thailand don't. If you look at their domestic league, the Thai Women's League, they'll say it has existed since like 2010, I think, or 2009, but there was a 4 or 5 year hiatus, so it was revived in 2017.
To get ready for the World Cup.
Pretty much. It does feel that way. I think they had consultants come in and recommend that was one of the only ways that they might be able to compete at a higher level. But it is the case that there are 11 teams in the league. That league, I think, from my research, again, not a lot of English language reporting on the Thai Women's League. I think that league includes the Thai U16 and U19 national teams.
Yeah.
The U19s won the league last season, which is worrying because 10 of the 23 players on the current roster play for Chonburi, who finished third in the league.
Ooh.
So, yeah. I mean, again, if those numbers are correct from what I was able to figure out, but 21 of the 23 players on this roster are playing in the Thai Women's League. So it's not – I think that's part of the issue, though, is that because they're not going out and they're playing in slightly higher levels of competition against a variety of competition.
Because they're not good enough to do so.
Yeah, I think so. And so then it becomes they go back and play for the national team. They do kind of the same thing, but there's not a lot of evolution to it.
So are there any sort of players we should keep an eye on? Maybe a couple of key players?
Yes, I would say the number one key player is Suchawadee Nildhamrong, or Miranda Nild if you're American, because she is American too.
Oh, okay.
She is a 22-year-old American born forward for the California Golden Bears. If Thailand scores in this tournament...
Well, okay, so California Golden Bears a college team?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Alex Morgan's alma mater, I believe.
Okay.
If Thailand scores in this tournament, she will be involved. Because, actually, I should note, she is not just because of their alma mater. She is sort of similar to Alex Morgan in that she is lanky. So she's tall, skinny. She's got the long ponytail, the long straight hair, but also she's kind of has that like pace to try to get behind defenses. She's going to challenge in the air. She's decent with her hold up play. She's good at scrapping for the ball. So there's a lot of similarities between the two. And really, she looks regularly like Thailand's best player. She seems to me. Forgive me if this is like an unfair thing to say, but I feel like some of the women in the Thailand national team maybe came to soccer late. She looks like a person who played soccer her entire life. That you can just see the little instinctual okay, I need to be here, I need to make this run, I need to be here at this time. And there will be times when she will try to lead her teammates and her teammates will stop because they didn't realize it was going to be a leading ball. Or there's just moments where she'll try to play quickly and her teammate will take a touch and take a touch and take a touch, and you can see her kind of demanding the ball back and wanting it back, and it doesn't quite come.
That's going to be frustrating on her.
Yes.
empathy type frustrating to watch.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think it will be because she does.
And what's her name again? Sorry,
Miranda Nild
Nild
is what she goes by, but Suchawadee Nildhamrong, Nildhamrong.
Got it.
She will have some support, I should add, because the other player that I wanted to spotlight is Silouan Ntami, 25-year-old central midfielder for Chonburi, the team that finished third.
Yep.
It's her second World Cup. She scored 2 of the 3 goals in their first and only win versus the Ivory Coast in 2015, so she's kind of legendary in Thailand for that, or at least in Thai women's soccer. She is their midfield playmaker. If they go with that 4-2-3-1, she'll probably be sitting very deep, but she would be the one most likely to combine with Nildhamrong up top. And the one thing I did really enjoy about her is that she also does look for some of those like less obvious balls. I saw her winning the ball back and then trying to split defenses and trying to kind of play like clever long balls into the channels. It was less like lateral, don't get caught in possession, which did seem to happen with some of the other Thai attackers on occasion. So
and her name again one more time?
Silouan Ntami. And I would expect lots of energy. I'm going to guess that she will cover the most ground of any Thai player. Partially because she's going to be trying to put out fires and win the ball back and link up, and partially because I think she's going to try to combine with Nildhamrong up top as much as possible.
All right. Anything else to add on the Thai team?
Rattikan Thongsombut is, I think, how you pronounce that. 27-year-old attacker. She'll start on the left wing. Get to know her because she's going to foul some people. She is very physical. She loves an aerial challenge. She's one who I saw whenever there's a throw-in. Not whenever, but a lot of times when there was a throw-in, you see her just pointing at her head. Like she wants the ball in her head kind of regardless of where she is. Even if it doesn't make sense, she goes in for it, and she'll also go in for it even if maybe she knows she's not going to win the ball.
Yeah.
So I expect she'll be doing some fouling. I think
Get some yellow cards?
I think so. And I think Thailand will probably do a bit of fouling, especially against the United States, again in an effort to slow things down.
So they need, remind me her name again?
Rattikan Thongsombut.
But they need her to get through the first 2 games against USA and Sweden without picking up 2 yellows.
Yes, they do.
So that she's not suspended for that Chile
I'm not convinced she will, but yes, they do need that.
We'll keep an eye on that. That'll be interesting to see if she makes it.
Worth noting, it is her second World Cup. She's in that. She's in that kind of that group as well.
Bit of experience then. Yes. Maybe she knows, maybe the 89th minute of this second game, I'll ease off a little bit.
And then my final one, as I said, maybe Thailand keeps it to 1-0 against the United States, but it's worth noting they've been rotating the goalkeepers, and their veteran goalkeeper, Boon Singh, I think it will likely not be starting, but it's up in the air. All that is to say that I think the goalkeeper situation is fairly unsettled. I would encourage American players to shoot early and often.
Well, especially if they've been rotating them, they'll be all dizzy.
Boo.
Are you ready for the next team?
I am indeed.
Okay.
That was Thailand.
This is Chile. Chile, Las Chicas de Rojo, the ladies in red. As if Krista Berg named them. Las Chicas de Rojo. That is the Chilean team's nickname. But the nickname should be the Optimists.
Okay.
The Optimists. This is their first ever World Cup appearance. They made it because they hosted the qualifying tournament and finished second behind Brazil. So, again, this is going to be a big thing for them, right? First ever tournament. The coach, Jose Letelier, has been in charge since 2015. He plays a theoretical 4-2-3-1, but it's really a 4-5-1. It's really a defensive 4-5-1 where they sit not super deep, but roundabout midfield and challenge you to come through them, right? So they've got one striker, Danielle Zamorano. She'll be the one that sort of is really, I always see her weirdly disconnected from the rest of the team because she's all the way up top and the rest of them are just back in what is essentially a 4-5-1.
No.
Okay. The problem with it is the reason they're optimists is out wide they are fielding essentially 2 strikers. So on the left, it's Yanara Ayedo. I think she'll wear the number 10. She's pretty creative. She's got a bit of pace. She's maybe their best hope of creating something going forward. She plays for Valencia. But she's really an attack-minded player, right? So what this creates a problem with is when teams start attacking down a flank, you want your wide defensive midfielder to track runners. Doesn't necessarily do that all the time. So you end up with a bit of 2v1 against the fullback. And it's the same problem on the other side with Maria Jose Rojas, another striker who's going to be playing on the wing, who is essentially cut from the same cloth, right? Technically really good. I've seen her play and score goals as a striker, but she'll be playing on the wing for Chile and not doing a whole lot of tracking back. You know what I'm saying?
That seems like it could be disastrous against the United States and Sweden.
Yes.
Okay.
It could be. It kind of explains...
Hence the optimism. Gotcha.
It kind of explains why Chile have had some odd results. Like their best result easily from the past year is they beat Australia 3-2. Huge,
Okay.
right? But 2 of the goals were just massive Australian howlers. It was like a defender trying to pass the ball backwards, completely mishitting it, and just putting a Chilean attacker through on goal. Right? 2 of the goals were like that.
Or was it Chilean mind games that totally worked to their advantage?
I don't think so. Because just a few days later, they had, sometimes it's like a double-header type game. The US does this sometimes.
Yep.
Chile
I
faced
think the United States did it against Chile. In
Yeah,
fact.
so
Yep.
2 days later, Chile faced Australia again. I think the Australian players had a chat with each other, let's cut the mistakes out. Australia 5, Chile 0.
Oof.
Yeah, kind of buried them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then...
Slightly fewer mistakes that time?
Yeah, slightly fewer mistakes. And then there've been some big defeats. They lost 7-0 to the Netherlands. And a lot of it is balls. The reason I really spotlighted those 2 wide players who don't track back, well, it's just not, defending's not part of the game, right? It's a lot of getting down the channels. This is going to suit the US. So 4-5-1, but you get down the channels because you can get there, putting balls across. And then the defenders, the centre-backs, Guerrero and Seger, I watched a lot of them. And they weren't horrible. They weren't falling over each other. But they were not making any sort of decisive blocks or plays or stepping. I kind of feel like maybe they're just not physically strong or aggressive or anything that might help you defend and clear a ball. So when you're firing balls in, I think you're really hurting Chile. If you get down the wing and fire some low balls in, it's all kinds of trouble for Chile.
So they basically going to be targeting that game against Thailand as well? Similar to what Thailand will be doing against Chile?
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah. The other big thing to think about in terms of them being optimists is when they do get the ball back, they tend to play a sort of possession soccer, right? And they're good players. A lot of them have very good technical skill. So they'll be moving the ball around, passing it around in midfield, and they'll have a couple of moves and this and that. But all the games I watched, it kind of never comes to anything. You know what I mean? There'll be a bit of progress down the field. Eventually the move breaks down. Then they have to shift back into the 4-5-1 and defend and wait for it all to happen again. Yeah.
Does it not come to anything because... How do I say this? Is it because they're not sort of able to find innovative ways through? Do they not have a playmaker who can sort of, okay, now we've made it into the final third. Now we're going to give it to this person. She'll dribble through, or she'll try to thread the needle.
I think it's more from what I've seen. There's not really a plan beyond possessing the ball.
Okay,
with the Netherlands we talked about on the previous show. There's definitely unsettle them, and then we'll exploit these wingers. Will find a position and exploit one of the fullbacks. I didn't really. It might be because I haven't seen enough footage, but I've seen a few games and a few chunks of games. I never saw here's what Chile do every time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was a little bit just possess the ball and that'll be good enough, and we've all got some moves and we'll try and make something happen, and then it doesn't quite happen.
They've really taken that 10 passes equals a goal drill to heart?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, it could be something like that. Okay, in terms of key players, maybe one of the most famous players is the goalkeeper, who's also the captain, Christiane Endler. She plays for PSG. So pretty good team in France. Not Lyon, but they want to be Lyon. She is 5'11.5".
That's tall.
That's tall. As I mentioned earlier, Hope Solo, 5'9", Lisanaya, 5'9", and they look like good size for women's goalkeepers, right? 5'11.5".
Okay.
Is Christiane Endler, and she really stands out when you see whoa, that's a tall goalkeeper.
So much for hiding our secrets
in
up top.
Goal for Chile. So much for what?
Hiding our secrets up top.
What do you mean?
It's a Michael Scott joke about how the world's tallest man is Chinese, and he said so much for hiding our secrets. Secrets high.
So I took a good look at Endler, watched a lot of footage. She's really good one-on-one. Right? If you're in behind and one-on-one with her, she will come out, and because she's big, she's very good at coming and making herself big because she's already big to begin with, and blocking all the angles, and she gets a lot of blocks like that, right? What she's not great at, unfortunately, is when balls are fired in from the wing, fired in low, corridor of uncertainty type stuff, she tends to stay rooted to her line. So you end up with a lot of balls come in, the centre-backs don't get to it, there's a player in the 6-yard box, gets a strike at goal, and Endler, rather than being out there and smothering it before that striker can get a strike at, she's on her line and desperately trying to dive one way or another. But when goalkeepers are on their line, the goal's really big to aim at, right? So one thing from what I saw, one thing she's really good at, coming off her line one-on-one, when balls are coming in from across, she's staying on the line and often getting beat. Maybe she has too much faith in her centre-backs.
That might be.
If I was her, I would not trust them at all. I'd come out and claim everything.
I'll let her know.
Yeah, please do.
From what I could see at club level, she seems to be pretty good in distribution. It seems like her club team tries to play through her whenever possible. Do you think that's something that Chile will try to do as well? Is it a build from the back team, or is it a kick it long team?
It's not a kick it long team.
Okay.
They will try and possess and move it forward because they're optimists.
Just emphasis on try.
They like playing good soccer, which is admirable. They're just not as good at it as the much better teams in this tournament, right?
Gotcha.
They're the second best team in South America at doing it.
That's good.
Right.
That's something.
Another key player to keep an eye on, I want to look at central midfield. The captain is Karen Araya, number 8, plays for Sevilla. But the player I really want to look at is someone who I think is like almost like the second slightly better draft of Karen Araya. It's Francisca Lara. She looks like the most complete player to me. She's going to wear number 4, Francisca Lara. She is the player in central midfield that you'll see breaking up plays. Like, they'll have numbers back. She's the one who tends to read the game the best, step to the ball, win the ball. And then, again, she's got good technique. Like, she'll make a nice little cut, a nice little pass, and she'll get that possession thing going. She'll be at the heart of a lot of that possession stuff, even if eventually it doesn't quite go anywhere.
All right.
So number 4, Francisca Lara.
Thank you. I was going to ask her name one more time.
Yeah.
All right.
So there you go. That's everything I know about the Chilean women's national team.
All right. One more team remaining in the final group. One more team, and then the World Cup is previewed. But first,
that means it can start. After we've done previewing it, they let the tournament start.
Exactly. That's how it works. But first, let's talk about Policy Genius.
Let's do it.
Policy Genius. There's a widely held belief that procrastination is a bad thing, but life isn't so black and white. Sometimes procrastination can work in your favor, like when you're trying to cram in all of your World Cup preparation and you do it kind of the night before, but then you don't sleep, but you know everything.
Yep. Execution concentrates the mind, as one of my professors once told me. But in the example of life insurance, if you've been putting that off, congratulations, because you have managed to procrastinate long enough for technology to catch up and make it easy.
Was your professor threatening you with death? Is that what I'm led to believe from that statement?
No, he was saying, like, the exams come in, don't worry, you'll end up revising a lot because you'll panic towards the end.
Okay. That makes more sense.
I think it's like a Samuel Johnson quote when he was about to be executed. He
All right.
said, execution concentrates the mind, and you can almost think of a way out of it.
He's written a lot of papers then? All right.
Yeah.
Well, Policy Genius is the easy way to shop for insurance online. In just 2 minutes, you can compare quotes from top insurers to find your best price. But because they make it easy, they make it easy to stop procrastinating, because I think a big part of it, life insurance is not necessarily fun to think about. So it's an easy thing to kind of put off, like, yeah, I'll do that later, I'll do that later, I'll do that later. Policy Genius, you can kind of knock it out quickly and be on your way.
And because it's you on the website, policygenius.com, there's no sales pressure, and crucially, there's no hidden fees.
That's nice.
So you don't see a price and then it's actually a different price.
Oh, you want your family to be taken care of? An extra
Yes.
$200, please.
Yeah, there's none of that. It's not like certain ticket sites that will call themselves the master.
Yep.
And there's no one breathing down your neck to make the sale either.
They also help you find the right home insurance, auto insurance, disability insurance. There are many different options for anyone in need of any type of insurance.
But if you need a life insurance especially, but you've been busy doing literally anything else, you've been procrastinating, check out Policy Genius. It's the easy way to compare all the top insurers and find the best value for you. It's policygenius.com is that URL, Taylor.
Nobody wants to shop for life insurance. That's why they made it easy over at policygenius.com. Final World Cup team to discuss is Sweden. The Blaugold.
I'm getting emotional. The Blaugold, the blue and gold.
Blue and yellow, blue and gold,
Yeah.
something like that. I'm assuming it's gold, but they've translated it to blue and yellow because they have. I am calling them the elevators in a half-renovated building. There you go.
This is even better than the storage unit Picasso's.
I do my best.
Elevators in a half-renovated building.
I was trying to remember when our elevators in this building were being renovated, so I could have gone that route, but I couldn't remember, so here we are.
It was after I brought that horse in.
Because that probably broke it down. What do elevators do, Daryl? They go up and down, just like Sweden. Sometimes Sweden are up, sometimes they're down. But if it's being renovated, they're unreliable at times because you don't know how long it's going to be. Maybe they're working on both of them. You might have to wait for a while. And if they have been partially renovated, some of them are older, some of them are newer, and you've kind of got to deal with the differences there. That's pretty much the description of Sweden. They have a variety of formations. Again, variety, spice of life. They rotate personnel in most spots. Manager Peter Gerhardsen likes a 3-4-3, will also play a 4-2-3-1, so sometimes a back three, sometimes a back four. Sweden might be one of the few women's teams, I think, to go with a back three as kind of a default because...
Yeah, there's so many back fours in this tournament.
Yes, but it's kind of confusing because they haven't really gotten the best of results playing a back three. They lost to Germany, Portugal, and Italy when in that shape. But I think the reason why is because three of their strongest players, Nila Fischer, Lina Sembrant, and Magdalena Eriksson, can all play center backs. So it's an easy way to put all three of them in there. Otherwise, it's usually Eriksson gets kind of pushed out to left back, but she is more so naturally a center back. So I think that's why they might go that route.
I have a question. Is it a back three or is it really a back five?
I think it's meant to be a back three.
Okay.
Yes.
It does have kind of an attacking element to it.
Yes,
right? It's
it
freeing
does.
up other players to be farther forward. Okay.
But again, you've got like variety in the attack, so they're kind of up and down depending on the results. Then there's variety in performances. Knocked out in the quarterfinals in 2015. Finals in the Olympics of 2016. You talked about they eliminated the U.S.
I didn't know they went all the way to the final.
And then quarterfinals in the Euros in 2017. Not the result they would have been looking for. Partially explained by their inconsistent attack. Again, sometimes the elevator comes right away and they score a goal. Sometimes you got to wait for a little while because their expected goals are not ideal. Their goal scorers tend to be erratic in their form.
Okay.
All that said, some of the elevators are new. Some of them are veteran. Let's talk about the veterans for a moment. The ones that have been there forever. The ones that I think the elevator here, like it was installed in the 1920s.
Yeah.
You do not have any 1920s players on the roster, but you have 6 who are over the age of 29.
They're like 90-something years old.
Yeah. But still playing. And all 6 of those players that I mentioned who are over 29 are core members of the squad. The spine of the team is going to be goalkeeper Hedvig Lindahl, 36 years old, 158 appearances. There's your goalkeeper. Center back Linda Sembrant, who I already mentioned, 32 years old, 110 appearances. Neela Fisher, 34 years old, 176 appearances.
Neela Fisher, I remember from the 2015 World Cup. Yeah.
So you've got like the experienced goalkeeper. Center backs, Caroline Seger, who's a player I want to spotlight.
I remember her too.
Yep, 34 years old, 193 appearances. And up top, more so as your number 10, Kosovare Asllani, 29 years old, 126 appearances. Those 5 players have 60% of the caps on this roster of all 23 players. But then, like, if they do go with the back 4, this is why I find them really interesting, is because they would probably have Sembrant and Fisher as the 2 center backs. But then, like Eriksson, whom I mentioned, 25 years old, she plays for Chelsea. And you've got Hannah Gloss, the right back, 26 years old, who plays for PSG. So a lot of the core players that I mentioned, the veteran players, are playing in Sweden right now. And then, like, a lot of the younger players are the ones who are in France, who are in England, who are kind of going out somewhere. I think there's a couple with Bayern Munich. So you've got a few, like, the younger players kind of going out, doing their own thing. They're modernizing, they're adapting. They're the new elevators, and they're helping you stay up. As I said, there are other key players like Caroline Seger, who you mentioned you are familiar with.
Yeah, I wouldn't say familiar, but I just remember the name, essentially.
That's fair. Yeah. She's been around for a while. 34 years old, veteran midfielder, 27 goals as well, so that's nothing to scoff at, but it's mostly her sort of possession and presence in the middle that will give Sweden comfort, because she is very good at doing that, but also help Sweden sort of link defense to attack and just keep the ball moving. She is a metronome when it comes to possession. All White Kit, the website, statistically pointed out she completes 91% of her passes. Her worst game this cycle, she only completed 86%.
Oh, that's shame.
I know, it's absurd,
we should
right?
ring a bell.
Mm-hmm. She played professionally in the WPS in France for both.
The forerunner of the NWSL?
It is indeed. Yeah. She's played for Lyon and PSG. She now plays for in Sweden for Rosengard, and she really is just like a pillar of stability there. She also does not shy away from the aerial challenge. I had her as a good aerial policewoman, because if there's anything loose in the air, she's going to step to it, she's going to win.
Yeah.
And even those little like flicked on headers that then become 50-50 balls, she's stepping in and winning those too. So she's kind of that
Caroline Seger.
Yeah, she's going to be like your midfield general, but she's probably going to be partnering, like I think it's a 25-year-old. So again, you've got the combination of old and young. The goal scoring is more of an issue for Sweden because while they have good strikers and capable goal scorers, they are very erratic in their form, especially at national team level. The kind of consistent performer when it comes to their attack is Kosovare Asllani, who I already mentioned, 29-year-old creative attacker for Linköping. Linköping is in the Swedish domestic league.
Oh, I was going to
say. She's one of 4 players from Linköping on the roster. They won titles in 2016 and 2017 in the Damallsvenskan, which is 12 teams, 2 Champions League spots, which is different than a lot of the leagues we've talked about, such as the kind of proven stability of the Swedish league. But Asllani is, because of her Balkan heritage, but she plays for Sweden. She's got the long hair.
She's got it from Kosovo, right?
Yes, I would assume so. Yeah. She's got long hair. She's smooth on the ball. She's the new Zlatan. That's what I'm saying. And I think she gets those comparisons a lot because she is pretty like calm on the ball, confident in the ball, has that swagger, can score those goals, 32 goals for Sweden. And she isn't necessarily going to be like the striker. There are many other players who could do that.
Yeah, the clips I saw, she was like on the right wing for a lot.
Yeah, she drifts out wide. She'll sometimes operate centrally in that like 4-2-3-1. If it is like a 3-4-3, then she'll probably go out wide and be one of the more attacking players. But she's more about like creating chances than she is kind of dribbling through and scoring on her own.
And what's her second name? Kosovare
Asllani, which is lion in Turkish, I believe.
Ooh.
So there you go. But then
like Aslan, is that how Aslan got named?
I think so.
In The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Yes, I'm going to say yes. But then other goal scorers possibly would be Stina Blackstenius, who's a younger player who is very quick, very like what I kept seeing from her was 1-2s that played her in behind the defense. She looks very mobile, and she also routinely, what I saw, especially at club level, was she'd start centrally, she'd play it wide to sort of like an interior but slightly wider player, and then she would get that ball played into the channel and would instantly look to cross. So it was like 2 touches from her, and she'd move from centrally to all the way out wide, and then playing the ball back in to like an overlapping runner. So she's really good about linking up the attack, but not necessarily always going to score your goals. If she struggles, that was Stina Blackstenius.
Oh, great name. What a great name.
And Sofia Jakobsen would be the other goal threat for Sweden. So you've got lots of stability, lots of young players combining with lots of veteran players. The issue comes down to how like kind of regularly and efficiently they can replicate the successes they've had before, while sort of moving away from some of the more disappointing results they've had in major competitions.
Can I ask you this? Has Nilla Fisher still got it?
I think from everything I saw, yes.
She's still like a dominant. I remember her being an absolutely dominant centre-back, just winning everything that came her way.
Because again, I think it's not Sweden, like, not to say that their style of play is ugly. It's not. They can possess the ball and move it very quickly, and they can certainly counterattack. But I think it's because those players are put in positions that favor them. It's why you can have veteran players, because you don't require them to run 20 miles a game because you're going to be high pressing everywhere and everyone's got to be mobile. You can sort of rely on your that kind of core spine to stay central, to operate that way, to win those balls in the air. But they're not necessarily then going to be charging 40 yards out to try to make a play.
I think of them as weirdly tough as well. I think of Fisher as tough. I think of Seger as tough. These are like players you don't want to mess with. Yeah.
They're Vikings, Daryl.
I mean, heritage-wise, yes, right?
Yeah. And some of them are very old elevators built in the 1920s.
Anything else to tell me about Sweden?
No, I mean,
Have we finished all our World Cup previews?
I think we've finished all of our World Cup previews.
Wow.
But I think I'm just excited to see Sweden because they have the kind of juxtaposition of styles in there, where they've got like the young, exciting runners who will try to dribble through. They've got the kind of the veteran toughness that you've talked about.
Yep.
And I think that final game against the USA could be incredibly dull if both teams are maybe trying to throw it and not necessarily trying to injure players.
Yeah.
It could also be very exciting if both teams are going for it.
Yeah, it could be we want to win the group, and they could go at it. Right?
I mean, and
that's what I'm hoping for.
And there's a past relationship, and so maybe there's even the like Australia versus Chile situation when maybe Sweden want revenge, the United States want revenge for knocking them out of the Olympics, and they both go at each other, and I would enjoy that too.
So there you go. World Cup 2019. You have been previewed.
You've been previewed.
You start on Friday. If people want to watch.
I think you're just directly talking to the World Cup now.
Right in the World Cup space. The World Cup starts on Friday with France-Korea is the only game on Friday. That's the opening game. Then the next day, we kick into gear with multiple games per day.
Yeah, we do.
As the World Cup does. We'll have coverage throughout, right? We're not going to go in detail on every single game, but we will have coverage throughout the entire tournament. We'll be focusing a lot on the US women's national team.
Certainly will.
Yes. All right. I've nothing else to add, do you?
I have nothing else to add.
All right, that's great. If you have enjoyed our World Cup previews, please share them with people. The URL is totalsoccershow.com/WWC. Or you can send them a link to the podcast or anything else that you think might get people to listen. I will close by saying, Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, my friend.
Listeners, thank you for listening, and we will talk to you again soon.